Welcome, everyone. This is the first new webinar recording for 2025. Dr. Eddie Capparucci is joining me, so he's helping us kick off our new year. So
that's great. I'm glad to be part of that. Your tradition going on. How many
yes.
years have it been now?
Well, it was funny because I was looking up some of the drop-in groups. Because I was like, I should have documented that, and I saw evidence of certain ones, and I don't think it was the first ones that have been going 5 years. And I think with the webinar started along that same time, of course, we've continued to add to the content and the number of people who are participating. But I know at least 5 years we've had online content. Seeking Integrity actually started 7 years ago, but we didn't obviously launch right off the bat. So kind of crazy, like that it's been this long, and so many people reach out and they're grateful for the support and the resources. Many people nobody ever expects to have to deal with this, that, Dr. Eddie, but it's also
Right.
like you don't know where to turn, and we want there to be good information and resources that it's actually helpful and healing for those who are in this struggle. So Dr. Eddie, while we wait for questions for this time, we're going to start with in November we had some questions. As a betrayed partner, formal therapeutic disclosure was a key milestone in the process for healing individually and relationally, but I am now feeling the need for more in-depth processing of what's happened and to grieve together. Can you speak to the importance of this, and that formal therapeutic disclosure is not the only time that the betrayal that the betrayed that has done that the betrayal that has been done is discussed in productive and healing way. Also, since we don't get an actual copy of the formal therapeutic disclosure, there are aspects I have forgotten given how emotionally activating it was at the time.
This is a great question. It is so important, and I thank that person for allowing us to discuss it because, yeah, there are some individuals, especially betrayers, who believe, okay, once we do a disclosure, that's it, we're ready to move on. Actually, disclosure to me is really the starting point of the healing. Okay, because now, even though you might sit there and say, well, I told her everything. Yeah, you did. You told her a little over here, and a little there, and a little here and there. And so now she has linear, she has everything. And she can finally take a breath and go, okay, most likely I probably know everything. But to the woman's point, now begins the process of having to go through and deal with each of the different aspects that have been disclosed. That's heavy. It takes time. And also, as you're going through that, more questions are going to pop up into your head. And therefore, you're going to seek answers for it. So, as I tell, betrayers that one, when you do disclosure, that's the beginning of their healing process. That's where we're starting all of this. And you need to be able to have the maturity to be able to sit and see pain, not see hostility, not see anger, but to see her pain, her little girl who's hurt, to see that and answer, yes, answer that question for the 30th time. Yes. Because obviously there's something there on that particular question that she's hung up on and she's trying to sort through. So just give her what she needs. So, but yeah, this is important. This is something, I mean, it'll be talked about, because, and the other thing you've heard me say that before in the past, as they're talking, they are healing. Doesn't look like healing, doesn't feel like healing, but it is healing. So therefore, we do need to be very aware that when we get through disclosure, that there will be a continuation of the dialogue, and there will be many more questions that will be asked.
I so appreciate you talking about like yes, it's going to come up. So I wanted to the point of like I didn't get a copy, and there's a reason why you don't get a copy, because guess
Mhm.
what? You're going to read that, you're going to be so focused on it, and then what do you mean by this word? So
Yep.
often a betrayed partner's therapist has a copy that you can go back and have a little session, not a little session, I don't want to diminish it, a session with, and talk about, like, I think I remember something about, that date or whatever, and you can review it, but it's in the safety of the support session for you. And then if there's more questions around that, I think, like for a betrayer, if they're able to hold the space and go, like, yeah, this is the 30th time, I was thinking, I wonder if they were able to be curious and say, this seems to be something that you have some focus on. Can you tell me more about that? Like, if you as a betrayer were open to, like, because then they may go, what, I'm thinking of this date and I did it, whatever. You may understand more about what's going on for your betrayed spouse if you're open to finding out why is, like, why is that one such an issue? There's something, like Dr. Eddie said, it's part of the healing. There's some sticking spot. Is there an opportunity of, like, oh, you're asking about that, so we can work on that? And guess what? If this is like, this is above your pay grade, go see your qualified professionals. Get the help
Mhm.
that you need,
Yes.
so that you're not trying to figure this stuff out on your own. If it
Yeah.
really is a sticking point, on this one or a couple things that go, like, I think we need to, I think we need our professionals to help us.
Mhm.
We want the help that, so that we aren't trying to figure this out or doing things that will almost, I don't know if you can set back your like after a formal therapeutic disclosure, but like it can keep you from moving forward, if in the healing process.
Right. But believe me, you are better off not having a copy of the disclosure. But
Yes.
just to get there, go over it again and again and again, you're
Hmm.
re-traumatizing yourself. Tammy said we usually have a copy of it. We do have copies of it. And we'd be more than happy to bring you in, sit, talk about it, sit there and I'll read it to you again, if you need that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So it isn't that you don't ever get to see it, but it's also, it really is a safety thing for partners, because, unfortunately, the ones that have, found journals and gone through stuff, and, they're hyper focused on that and dysregulated, and can get stuck on those details.
yeah, well, like I said, my wife has a saying. She goes, in the absence of information comes imagination. And
That's
that's
a
what
good one.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and when that's what happens, I don't know the fact, so I surmise what the facts are.
Yes. Because our brains are always looking to understand, and we're going to create a story, even if it's the wrong narrative.
Yeah,
Our brains will do that.
all right.
Okay, we're going to switch to a current one. My wife
Oh,
and I are 6 months from our first discovery of my sex and porn addiction behaviors. I've remained sober and I'm working on building my recovery skills and confidence. I attend 12-step groups 3 to 4 times a week, attend weekly counseling with my CSAT, and have been doing more to help out with domestic duties. However, her rightful trauma response and emotions of anger and communication of contempt. Criticism triggers a response in me of feelings that I'm not good enough, that I failed in my recovery, that I'm a bad person destined for addiction and unworthy of love. From reading your materials, Eddie, I understand that the true work lies in parenting my inner child. But with all the work recovery demands, what are some immediate strategies that I can implement in these moments to show up for my wife and help her heal rather than react with defense and cause more trigger trauma responses?
mm,
Thank you to both of us. Great question. Thank you for
yeah,
asking this.
very good question. So for you, again, as I tell people, if you wait to get into the trenches to try to deal with this when you're having contempt and criticism coming at you, you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail. You have outlined what you've been doing as far as work, and it seems that you have a pretty good recovery plan this year. You need to be spending time every day, several times a day, talking to yourself, talking to your inner child about, you know what? I feel myself changing. I feel myself growing. I believe now that's if this is happening. I feel that I'm becoming a different type of individual who's no more responsible, who's more caring, who's more compassionate. And therefore, then when you are in the midst of her grieving and she's throwing out contempt at you, it kind of rolls off because you know inside that, look, you know what her word can't define who I am. And the words, where are they coming from? They're coming from her little girl who is hurt. That's what you have to look at. You have to see her pain, not her hostility. And that is really the key to all of this. If you could start to see pain, if you could see that hurt little girl, then you will make, it'll be much easier for you to be able to rise above any word she throws at you and be able to say, you know what? Yep, I understand she feels like that. However, I know that's not true any longer. Again, nothing you have to tell her, nothing you have to say. You don't have to defend yourself. Instead, you know within you, if your heart is changing, that can't be undone. That can't be undone by her word. So that's where I would be going.
And I was thinking, you guys are really early in this process, so I'm
It
really
is.
glad like
Yeah.
you're doing actionable, positive things. And she just had discovery 6 months ago. You've known all along that you were doing these things. So you've known she hasn't. And, like, yeah, if you can picture her as a 7, 8 year old little girl, like, and who's dealing with an adult situation that is way out of her league. I also find it really helpful when you're not in the moment, to have that conversation. I know that there are things that are hurtful to you that cause these behaviors. I'm wondering if you could tell me about those. And is
Mhm.
there something that I can do in that moment when you're saying those things, or when you want to say those things that could help settle things down. I also think it's really important that, if somebody is saying, um, using mean language, inappropriate language, like to say, when this happens, my defenses go down. So nothing good is going to come of this. So I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to call a timeout. I'm going to come back in 20 minutes and check on you, whatever. But can we try this? Because this is not helpful. She gets angry, you get defensive, you feel shame, it's just going to end up, spiraling. So can we think of a plan that we can try so that when this happens next time, and it will, that we can try something different? Because I want to be there for you. I see how hurt you are, and this isn't helpful. I want to go to my defensive, and I don't want to do that, but that's where I go. So, but I really find that trying to do it when you're already down, that path is too late. So if you are able to just go, hey, let's talk about this when we're not in those heated moments. But I mean, she's hurt. She's so hurt, and she's thinking, oh gosh, was any of my life with you, real? There's shame for partners, not that it should be, but there is. Like, how did this happen to me? Like, all of those things, they're real. But
Your
you guys,
point,
keep doing the work. So go ahead.
but to your point, they're early. It's six
Yeah,
months.
yeah.
It's 6 months. I mean, everything that you're saying that she's doing at this moment is to be expected. I would be even a little bit careful about how quick I am to ask for that timeout.
Oh yeah,
Also,
yeah.
I mean,
But yeah.
I wanna be able to show up for her. That's what it is. Showing up for her. You show up for her, you're investing in her, you're investing in that little girl who is hurt. But at the same time, the way you do that is by continuing to tell yourself, yeah, she may be saying this, but I know that's no longer me. Again, we're not telling her that. Hopefully, as time goes on, she sees it.
That's a fair point. I was kind of going to the language is abusive, and he did not say that. So if there's just, anger and hurt in it, yeah, unfortunately, our past behaviors, we have to be able to handle some heat, take ownership of it. So, but
Right.
you're right. And if, I was reading into it that it was,
Well,
toxic name calling, but that wasn't what was stated.
but
So,
there is a place for timeouts, and
yeah,
no matter where. But I think
yes.
earlier, want to keep
Well,
them to a
but
minimum.
have the discussion of like, if this
Oh,
happens, then I'm
absolutely.
going to, not just like I'm going to go take a time. No, it's like, if this happens or when this happens, if we're escalating, it doesn't go positive for either of us. So either one of us can call a timeout.
Right.
We say for how long, or you have a pre-stated thing, and we're going to come back
Mhm.
and check in and see if it's a good time to have a discussion. Like,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
have a plan.
Although you and I both know you can, and you're right, that's what you need to do. You have to
Yeah,
talk about it ahead of time.
yeah.
But when we get into that moment and you go, time out,
Oh
I
yeah.
need to go, you're not going to be met with, oh yeah, you're right. You need
Yeah,
to take
oh,
a time out
absolutely.
because
Yeah.
you're right. I'm totally out of control. Go, you
Yeah.
go, come back.
Yeah.
That's not what's going to happen.
No.
Okay. You're probably going to hit with a lamp as you're walking
Yeah.
out the room.
I hope not,
So
but yeah.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to be a
Yeah.
metaphor,
But you're
but
right. Be prepared. Yeah.
to be prepared, right? So it's like, yeah, turn, go, you coward, run away.
Hmm.
Who
Hmm.
cares? You don't, I'll be back. Don't come back. I don't want you back.
Yeah.
And you come back anyway.
Well acted. Yeah. So, okay. The next question. Betrayed partner with my own CSAT and betrayal recovery. My spouse came into a marriage 33 plus years ago with hidden porn addiction. 11 months ago, I kicked him out and he started seeing a CSAT and was diagnosed with porn addiction and sex addiction. He seems to be in active addiction, checking off boxes, and I'm dealing with a 7-year-old child. Talking to the adult addict doesn't seem to get through to him. Can I try talking to the child in him? What would help get through to him? He has a real problem. This is
Okay.
massive denial, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah, that's, I would agree with that. And I think so talking to the child here, can you do that? I think what you can do, as opposed to anything else, instead of telling him and demonstrating your anger about circumstances, like pointing out the circumstances, like, you know what, I don't feel like you're really, doing the work that you should be doing. I feel like you're slacking off. Why do I need to tell you all the time? Instead, talk about how you feel about all of that. And so therefore, I see that you haven't really picked up a book or, lately you haven't been to a meeting. And that really scared me because I feel that, you know what, perhaps you're not putting in the effort that you really need to be able to beat that and walk away. Walk away. See, think about it. When you tell a child, if you sit there and you scold a child and you wag your finger in their face, a child might cry, may pout, whatever. When you sit there and you tell a child, you know what you just did right now hurt me and is very disappointing. That pierces a child. And maybe you could do that with him. I've worked with many women over the years in talking with them about how do they manage that guy who just kind of still headstrong. And I say the best way to do that, talk about how you feel, your emotion, and then just walk away from it. That's the way I would go.
Yeah, I think that's really valid. It- because if you're talking about events or circumstances, if you're off on 1 centimeter on
Oh,
something, it ends up being, no, you don't understand. You're wrong about that. So, but your feelings are your feelings.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And if he was my client, he's not telling her that she's wrong about anything. We do not use that language, but you're right. That's exactly what he'll do. He'll pick up on that one thing and he'll take you down the rabbit hole. So again, just talk about what you feel. And you know what? Let me say this too. If he does not respond well to that, that tells you a lot about the character of the man. And you may have to look at other options down the road because he may not be the right person for you. Yeah. Hopefully not.
Right. And and we did a whole series on should I stay or should I go, and it's ultimately everyone's choice. But like Dr. Eddie said, understanding who you have as a partner is really important. Do you have a person who's 7, or do you have a person in their 50s or 60s? And that ends up being up to the person doing the work. If they're checking off the boxes, we always hope that they finally check off one of the boxes and something sinks in. Like if they're
Yeah.
going to 12-step meeting, like they're going to see their CSAT, whatever, but if it's just, I'm just doing this because, to get my spouse off my back, or, because that's what she says she wants, like, yeah, it doesn't sink in. Recovery is transformation. Dr. Eddie talks about, transformations, and that's what we have to do if we want to be on a true recovery path. Just not acting out as merely abstinence, it doesn't change us. We don't get the benefits of recovery, and we aren't, acting out, from that standpoint either. So, and with AA stuff, we call it dry drunk, like you're not any better off. You're just not drinking.
Mhm.
And it's a miserable place to be, honestly, for those that
It
choose that.
is.
So, okay, so there was a comment from November, about the addict being relieved that the issues have been discovered and disclosure is happening. She has a dump truck experience of pain, betrayal, violation to deal with. And I made a note that I think this was about a do-it-yourself disclosure or about discovery. And yeah, addicts, some of them are, oh yeah, I feel so much better because I've come clean, but I do think, and we've talked about how important it is to have support, for a real disclosure, along the way. So can you comment a little bit about this, please?
Yeah, well, to your point, a lot of times, guys are doing this and they get to a point where they're actually feeling tired of it. It's heavy on them. So they're glad they get caught. They're not strong enough to confess, but they're glad they get caught. So when they bare their soul, it does feel so much lighter and they feel so much better. But what they've done is they just vomited all over their partner. And now she is not in a very good place at all. And so therefore that's where you have to be, as a person who betrayed, you can't be walking around, especially if after you've been doing your work and you're feeling like, oh my God, I've learned so much about myself and I'm never going to do this again. I feel great. And she's like, I'm still bleeding over here, okay? What the heck's wrong with you? Can't you see this? And in many times they can't because they're not very attuned. There's so much work that they need to be able to do. But yeah, this is all part of the recovery process that need to be navigated, need to be, worked through as we go step by step along the way.
One of my really frustrating things that I hear is, well, she asked the question, she wanted to know. And so then he has proceeded to tell her all the gory details, and she is just, like so over, like you said, you vomit. It's like horrible. There's no support.
Right,
There was no structure to it. There's no like, well, that's everything and contained, and here's all of these, like it, and then there's another, and then there's another, and then there's another, and but I feel like the betraying partner gets the, well, she asked, so like they're off the hook because she was asking the questions. So rather than going like, I know you want to know and I need to do the work because I want to tell you, but I want to make sure that we're doing it in a healthy way with the support, the qualified
right.
professionals that can guide us so that we have the best results,
Mm.
and it's
But in
hard
a
to hold
lot
that
of
space.
cases, these people don't know that. They don't
I know.
understand it,
I
right?
know.
I
I
mean,
totally understand.
and that's why she's asking for it. And sometimes it's not just asking, it's threatening. All right.
True.
If you
Fair.
don't tell me, I'm
Mhm.
calling your boss. I'm calling your
Yeah.
mother. I'm doing, I mean, I've seen it all.
Yeah.
But the betrayed partner doesn't understand what they're asking for because it's going to haunt them at times. And I know there have been times we've had a chance to talk to the betrayed partner before they learn all this to say, look, you don't want all the details. Oh, yes, I do. I was like, no, you don't. Yes, I do. I really think you ought to consider it. Reconsider that. Nope, I'm not reconsidering it. I want them. I want them. You know what? Okay, you're going to get them. You're going to get them. There's, the point is this. There has been a betrayal, period, period. To what extent, all of that, like I said, all the details, they don't really matter. What matters is your heart is broken. He broke your heart. Or do you want him to repair your heart? You want him to help fix it? You want him to be able to hold on to it moving forward in a way that he should have been from the very beginning. If that's what you want, then you know what? You have to be careful about what you ask for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you. And partners are like, I think that they believe that A, there'll be safety if I know every detail, and B, that they'll understand. And I'm like, you'll never understand because you would never do this
Uh,
stuff. And there's
right.
no understanding the why. Any any um any excuse, is going to feel so flimsy. Like, because it would never align. A partner's not going to go, oh yeah, now I get it, and now I see why you did. No, it still would not make any sense.
Right. It will not, having more details is not going to give you the why and make more sense. Him doing inner child work, okay, and doing a lot of self-reflection will give you rationales so you can help better understand it. But you never go down to the nitty-gritty of, okay, what is this all about? Because in certain cases, he doesn't even get that. But you can get a really good foundation for why this all occurred, but you're not going to get that from the details. That's not going to help you.
No, and again, the why. I just was talking to somebody earlier today. The why is interesting and can be useful on some
Oh,
level. Lots of
right.
people know the why and they're still acting out. So it really is, what do I need to do today and how do we move forward?
Well,
Those can be helpful.
Kenneth Adams, right? The idea that, you know what, understanding why, to your point, doesn't solve the problem. Okay. However, knowing why can make it much clearer for you when you get drawn to the problem again to say, oh, wait, the reason I want to go there is because of this, this, and this. Let me take care of these and do that. And therefore, then realizing, oh, guess what? Now I don't need to go there. And again, that's part of the premise of the whole inner child model and what it's based on.
Well, and we always say stop the problematic behavior and have solid support so that you aren't going, oh yeah, all those little things are popping up and I'm triggered and I'm going to go off and act out. So yes, but get a solid foundation, have the support, and then it comes in layers. And I'm really grateful because if somebody had told me all the underlying issues and all my issues, like the first even year of my recovery, I'm pretty sure I would have relapsed. But having the layers and going, oh, now I can address this. Oh, now I can address this and continue, to dig on down has been a gift of recovery. The self knowledge and self awareness, really does help. So yes, I agree. And having, oh, that's my little girl getting poked. Okay, got it. I'm an adult. I can deal with that. So I did put, so Dr. Eddie does we're mentioning inner child. He has the inner child work group starting this month. I have to say this month now
Right?
because it's January. So there's some space left in that for guys. Why Men Struggle to Love, those two, and he only is offering those 2 times this year. So January or later in the year, I can't remember when, but so check those out. Those are opportunities to work directly with Dr. Eddie on that work group. Those are online courses, live facilitated, with homework and, a book to follow. So really good content. Many therapists recommend the work groups for their clients because you make so much more progress than you can just reading a book or doing, weekly therapy. Because somebody will say something and you'll go, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Or you'll hear it in a little different way and it will resonate. So it's a really good opportunity. And for you betrayed partners, we have a betrayed partner work group starting on the 7th of this month too. So opportunities for you. And we're going to start a boundaries course at the end of February for the partners as well. So that'll be another one. So, okay, I got to find my little notes.
Yeah,
The next,
we start on January 14th.
thank you. Okay. So the next question from November, we would still welcome questions from now, but I am 11 months into good recovery, have completed disclosure and amends to wife and kids. I'm still clunky with ABRs and apologizing straight away when I do cross a boundary. It's not the shame holding me back, it's fear. What is the best way to get past my fears to best support her in her triggers? I recognize when I am wrong, but I'm too slow at waiting for the right moment to bring it up. There's no perfect moment, and that was all part of the post. So yeah.
Like I would imagine the fear is that I'm in trouble, that I'm going to
Yeah.
get in trouble. The fear is I'm going to deal with with conflict, that I'm going to deal with her anger. And what we say always, the thing to deal with fear is to one, understand it's not going to kill you. Two, to hold on to it, embrace that fear, and then move forward despite that fear. Okay, that's what you have to do. You have to confront it. Fear is part of the whole idea of, you know, the inability to sit with emotional discomfort. And the inability to sit with that discomfort is what leads us to run away to seek soothing or comfort through problematic behaviors. Here, this is a great groundwork. It is a training ground, actually, that you can use to be able to take the fear. Yeah, she's going to get angry with me. Yeah, she's going to be, upset. Okay, then, not going to kill me. Let me be there. Let me sit with this. Let me work through it as much as I can with her. And then when it's done, you're like, oh, okay, not nearly as bad as I thought it was. And then the other thing, I think you got to go back and you have to look at what happened where you felt very overwhelmed when you were younger when someone got upset. Because that's what it was. Would get upset with you and it just scared the heck out of you. And that's what I think is going on here too. I think your inner child is getting activated whenever she's upset. And therefore it's like, okay, who else is in the room now? Dad, mom, a sibling, who's there? And be able to learn how to move that person out of that room.
Yeah, I was thinking, I bet it's often a parent. Like, I don't know that, but I bet often, there was a parent that was upset or something but who knows? Yeah. And then it's important to do. This is a great question. And I should have asked you to do this in the first place. Could you speak to the difference between the two different work groups that you have? If someone could only attend one, they would, it's like if you can only attend one, is there like do this one first and then this fall do another one, or what
I,
would the difference be and who should attend?
yeah, that is a good question. I think for me, if you are still struggling with your addiction, if you're struggling to remain sober, if you're sober but yet you have quite a few temptation, I think the going deeper class is the first one that you should be taking. Yeah, you feel like, you know what, my sobriety's in a good place. Yet what I'm really struggling with is being defensive, being fearful, what you was just talking about, lacking the courage or the curiosity, not having the curiosity to ask, hey, how are you doing with the pain I've caused? If those are the things of learning how to emotionally connect, being able to attune. If those are the things that you're struggling with, then I'm going with the Why Men Struggle to Love course. I'm taking that. And usually what happens is many men, they'll start with the going deeper, and then after that, they'll go to the Why Men Struggle to Love. However, I've had men who, again, the sobriety, they're in a good place. They have come to understand why they were struggling to begin with. And what they've done is they said, hey, it's time for me to become more emotionally mature. And that's when they go with the why men struggle to love.
And I agree. I will note too that we have Sex Addiction 101 starting on the 10th of this month. And if you are new to this journey, I mean, what Dr. Eddie was talking about is that, yeah, if you have a solid plan and you're still struggling with some slips and things like that, then, then those further courses can be helpful. But if you don't have a solid relapse prevention plan, Sex Addiction 101 or Porn Addiction 101, if all of the acting out has been online, they're at the top, and there's a reason, because we want you to get that solid foundation. And then, both of these, the attachment wounds will be offered in March, healthy intimacy, like all of these groups are supplemental for continuing the journey. And there's always work to be done. I don't care if you're 6 months into this, or 6 years or 16 years. Like, there's always more work to do in order to grow and have more freedom from the problematic behaviors, but also just that fearful thinking, like I don't want to be sitting here wrapped in fear. I want to be able to show up and go, yeah, I can feel the fear, but I'm going to show up as an adult. So please, like I said, Dr. Eddie's only doing these, each of them twice this year. So join if you are able. Okay. I'm the betrayed partner. We are separated for over a year due to relapse that has not stopped all this time. My husband says he wants the marriage, but his actions are saying something else. We are not divorced because we have 3 kids and not much money and 15 years of marriage. I really love him and want our family to work. He is not doing any recovery work at all, no CSAT, no groups for the last year. This week he started hypnotherapy. I feel like he just wants the addiction to go away in a quick pill. What are your thoughts on this? I feel like it's useless to him and the relationship. Thank you.
I agree with you. I think he's just looking for it to go away or for you to stop talking about it. One or the other. Again, not doing any work. Obviously need work based on what you're saying. Um, I mean, unless I were to sit down and talk to him about, what is it that he's done? Why have you felt that it hasn't worked before in the past? Again, he could be someone who feels, again, with 3 kids, separated, not a lot of money, financial situation, not great. He could be someone who feels a lot of pressures, and therefore, with that, he's still using whatever behaviors to soothe himself. Not that, again, not an excuse for it. But there's also, he's running away, basically. That's what it is. He's running away from what needs to be done. He doesn't want to be, separated from you. He wants to be back together. But again, you have to actions and words don't mean anything. It's the actions that count toward this. And I think you have to keep up the boundaries of, you know what, this is the way we're going to stay. However, I'll also say this, um, him being out of the house, you know, just opens it up more for him to have more free time to do whatever he's doing. Is it worth it perhaps to say, look, all right, you can come home, but in order to come home, you need to start doing work, which means you need to go to a counselor and you have to go into a group. and see what that, maybe that'll help.
I'm holding even tighter boundaries to be like, I want to see you 90 meetings in 90 days. I want to, see your schedule. Yeah, I'm sure he wants to come home, and one of the, I was finding he's got plenty of time. Yes. And those that are showing with their actions that they're doing the work, he'd go, I have plenty of time. I'm going to go to, I'm going to go to 2 meetings a day. I'm going to do whatever. 12-step meetings are free. Our drop-in groups are free. Webinars are free. The online work group, Sex Addiction 101, is $395 for a live facilitated 6-week course, 90 minutes per week. Great value, so to me, this is, um, uh, you guys, like, it feels a little stuck because it's a year and there's nothing changing. He's giving lip service, but but you're not divorcing. And I'm not saying you need a divorce, but like you guys, I know people that 3 years later, they're still physically separated and nothing's changing, so to me it's more, what do you need to do for healthy boundaries for you? We did a series, I'll find the link, but we had 4 webinars on should I stay or should I go, and all of those things, and I think it'd be useful for both of you, to look at this. But I often say no addict changes until the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same. Right now, he's like Dr. Eddie said, he's out, he can, tell you, oh, I want you, I want you, I want our family. But his actions aren't showing you any of that, at the moment. So I'm
I mean,
really
if
sorry,
he
especially with
would,
3 little kiddos.
yeah, I mean, I think, if he were to figure out why he's doing this, it could help him dramatically to do that. But again, he'd have to sit and do the work in order for that to happen.
Yeah. And I'm uh, like he could lose his family, and he's still, putzing around with it, not doing
But I
thing.
think he's at a place where he's like, no, I can't lose my family because one, she's in a place where she can't divorce me because of financial
Oh,
obligation, the kid. So the family's not gonna break up, you know?
yeah. Well, and then yeah, again, the pain of change is more than the pain of staying the same right now. So yeah,
I
yeah.
have met guys like him, and again, I'm not saying he's one of these guys, I don't know. But I've
Hmm.
met guys like this who, what, they do not change. They never change. And I could think of 3 examples where the women finally said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And they get wound up getting divorced. Boom, the guy was back in a relationship before the divorce was even finalized. They were already in another relationship. And all of those have turned to trash because
Yeah,
they haven't fixed it. They haven't fixed
right.
it. So
Yeah, yeah, you're right. The swath of
I'm not
pain.
saying he's one of those
Right.
people. I
Hmm.
don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I did put the link. I wrote a blog only because it had the links to 4 different webinars that we did kind of in the series of should I stay or should I go, that is useful information. I thought it was really helpful, just education. So take what you need and leave the rest. Okay. We will go back to our November questions. Um, as a betrayed partner that has ended the marriage and hope for the future with the addict due to active addiction, no work towards sobriety or recovery after years of betrayal, how do I put the unclear truth of my past 35 years of marriage without the full puzzle pieces of our relationship? I've accepted that I won't get them from him, but where do I put those questions and pain in my recovery and healing? You've probably had this too, where like the betraying spouse has died and like, there's just no opportunity to get that. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, right. The partner dies, and then you uncover all this stuff, and you're like, what? What to do with it? And this is difficult, and yet it is necessary. And you obviously are starting to take the steps to do that. Like you said, first and foremost, you walked away from it. You said, I'm not going to deal with this any longer. All right. You are also of the idea that you said, I'm accepting that I'm not going to get all of the answers. I'm not going to get all the truth. And that process, and that is where you need to stay, because that is not a one and done. that all of a sudden it's like, okay, I realize I'm not going to get it. Fine, move over. Let me go over here. No, no, you're going to keep getting dragged over there to say, but wait, what happened here? What happened? No, but that's when you have to say, you know what? There's nothing here. There's nothing here. This is gone. This is empty. It is dry. It is barren. I need to continue to shift away from it. I need to continue to move. And when you find yourself drifting back toward it, that's when you pick up the phone, you call somebody you know, you talk about it, you go to your support group, you talk about it. So therefore they can all point out to you and say, hey, what do you see there? Nothing. Right, nothing. What do you want to do? Move away and move back. And as you keep doing that, what's going to happen is when you move away from it, those periods are going to become longer and longer. And then the period that when you go back and look at it will become shorter and shorter. But it is a process. And I mean, you 5 years now, 10 years now, you could still every once in a while go back over there to that dying, that dead garden and look at it and say, what happened? What went wrong? Where did it go? There's nothing there. And keep moving.
Well, and I think you're right. And like an event or a situation or a memory could pop up, that would, touch back on that. So yeah, being prepared that this is a process, it will get easier, but it doesn't magically go away. I did put the Empowered Women's Retreat is amazing and healing. It's not, there's no magic fix. There's not like, oh, go there and you'll be all better. No, but
Speaking
you'll,
there this year?
I'm sorry,
Am
I know
I
you keep
speaking
going.
there?
Dr. Eddie, you're male. It's an Empowered Women's Retreat. I know you want to. Dr. Rob wants to too, and we go, no, no boys allowed. So, but it's really like it's so powerful to do the work, and we don't even like the thing with the Empowered Women's Retreat. We don't talk about the addict. It's like it's not about them. It's about the healing, for the women who are willing to do the work for themselves to heal and change. And it is really good. And but like I mentioned too, I know people that, for lots of reasons will never get the truth, will never have a disclosure,
Mhm.
have chosen to leave. And there's power in that I chose to leave, and I know it's bad enough. So that, is where we're at in this moment. So okay. So the next one, we're going back to November. You had made a point about a therapist offloading a client onto a less experienced counselor is probably more prevalent than might be understood. I'm no stranger to therapy, but the idea that complex trauma at childhood is the number one cause of what might be going on for me now seems to be relatively new. For the first time in my life, I feel the webinars, or for the first time in my life, I feel that the webinars such as this one are now ongoing is the best choice in terms of therapy. You could easily charge a small fee to make this worth your while. No, we don't do that. And this is not therapy. So, because,
Right.
again, this is not your personal story, but I'm sure lots of people, I always do when I'm doing these webinars, I go, oh, yeah. So, yes, it resonates.
Well, I'm glad you're getting a lot out of these. That's wonderful. However, complex trauma, as you said, your number one issue that you're dealing with, that's not going to be, you're not going to take care of that the way it needs to be taken care of here. You may feel that we're addressing some of it, and we probably are, but it's still, you're being shortchanged. All right, because we don't have the capability to provide the depth, and especially because we're not doing one-on-one that you really need. So I would really encourage you to, because I assume you'll be watching this one, even though you wrote the question in November based on what you've said. I would strongly encourage you to go back and get that therapist. And Tammy have a list of many good ones. I have many good ones that we can find for you. But yeah, don't just rely on this. But I do appreciate your kind words.
Yeah, well, and those online work groups, like I said, those are great and supplemental, and those are not therapy or treatment. So yeah, but I think it's using the combination of the many different resources and finding what's the most helpful, in providing support. I have lots of people, that will watch the videos or listen to a podcast and think that that's enough, or read a book. And I'm
Right.
like, those are useful supplemental and not
Yeah.
enough, because, there's no interaction, there's no accountability, there's no
No
help,
self-reflection.
right, or insight from a qualified professional. I
Right.
mean, like
Exactly. To
that's,
help
yeah,
you. Right.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
Because some people, they can't just get that self-reflection on their own. They need a professional to say, hey, wait a second, have you thought of this? Or I'm seeing this. What do you think about that?
I have a qualified professional. Like there are times when I go back for a few more because I'm all like, yeah, I've got kind of
Yeah.
a sticking point. But
No,
I don't pretend to, have it all wrapped up with a little bow. I wish I did, but I don't. So,
no, we
okay.
don't.
All right. As a partner, when my addicted spouse husband sets boundaries with me, I take that as recovery. As a partner, I needed to heal and able to tolerate the no from my husband. Can you explain? Can you please explain to the addicts that they need to learn boundaries? Oh goodness, do they?
No, they do. They need to deal with those. I just want to read her first line again. I have a partner when my addicted husband, set boundaries with me. Okay, right. I take that as recovery. Yeah, because again, what he's doing is he's showing some healthy assertiveness. And we need healthy assertiveness because, and the reason being is because part of our demeanor has always been to push through, push through, push through. And pushing through, Tammy, doesn't work. It doesn't work because eventually you're going to hit a wall somewhere. You're going to get frustrated. You're not going to have anywhere to go. So what are you going to do? You're going to exit stage left, right? And there you go. So here, when we learn this again, healthy assertiveness, that, you know what? No, I'm sorry. You know what? I do need that break right now because this, as Tammy said before, this is not helping anything. So I'm going to go take my break. You want me to watch that podcast that you just saw? Well, you know what? I'm in the midst of these two other things I need to do. I will look at it, but I can't do it right now. Okay? Because there are a lot of, again, when we get into that one down position, and the betrayed spouse is of the mindset like, no, I told you I want it now, do it. But you know what? There's nothing healthy about the dynamic of that relationship. And again, I understand where it's coming from because it's fear. And it's like, oh, he has to know this. He has to read it. He has to see it. He has to learn it because that's going to really help him. Maybe, okay? But still, it's much better for him on his own to pursue it than for you to cram it down his throat. So, and I'm not saying don't say, hey, here's an article I read, here's a podcast I saw.
Mhm.
But you know what? There are some betrayed partners that spend every day on blogs, Reddit, which we could just wipe that board out completely, to tell you the truth. Webinar, podcast, every day, three, four, five of them. And he comes home, and then it's like, go at it. What? That's not recovery, folks. I'm sorry, that's not recovery. It's not. And even for those who've been betrayed, you need breaks. You need a break from it. Because again, what you're doing is it is your fear, it's your anxiety. Remember, it's your anxiety that's driving you, and what that's doing is causing you to become compulsive. You're looking for the magic bullet. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. What it is hard work. It's self-knowledge. It's learning how to be, and I'm talking about from a betrayer standpoint, how to be humble. It takes time. It just takes time. And when you see something goes wrong, not to throw out the baby with the bathwater, because that's what happens quite often too.
So we've got 3 minutes left. We've got one more live question. I'm a wayward spouse who has stopped my bottom line behaviors. I feel confident in maintaining my sobriety. However, I find myself, and my wife has caught me, in my inner child behaviors of lying, omitting, and minimizing. I've made a mistake, not the bottom line mistake, but something like missing an appointment to protect myself from the fallout, rejection, fear of failure, because I feel like I have such little wiggle room for error.
Fear,
Yeah,
fear is dripping through all of
yeah,
this.
yeah.
Again, I'll go back to the answer I gave before. All right. You need to be able to sit there and say, wait a second. All right. I feel confident that I'm maintaining my sobriety. All right. I feel like, I've stopped all these bottom line behaviors. I feel like I'm in a good place. All right. My wife haven't, not recognizing it maybe right now, but that's okay. You can't allow her word or her action to again to define what you're doing. See her pain, see her pain, but do not go into the fear mode. Instead, hold on to that fear and move toward her to help her to address what she's going through. And you know what? In the long run, she's going to look at that and say, wow, growth. Versus just, oh, you attended this meeting, you filled out that form, you did it. Oh, no, you're actually engaging with me when I'm hurting. And that's when she's going to say, more, you've changed.
And I want to say, because she caught you lying, so you set things back every single time, she catches you and you weren't truthful. So what would it look like if you said, "I'm afraid to tell you, but I'm going to tell you the truth." I don't. It doesn't sound like you guys have a 24-hour rule of lies of commission or omission. I'm going to come and tell you. I'm really scared to tell you this because but I'm going to do that. And guess what? You will survive, and she will go, "Oh, that is different." But like
Like,
this
especially
lying, continue to lie is like
Right.
that's not real
Especially
recovery.
if you're telling, if you're sitting there and you're admitting the fact that, oh, I missed an appointment. I did it. She's saying, wow, he's honest with this. I guess he might be honest with everything. That's what she's
Yeah.
looking for.
Yes. We're out of time. Thank you, Doctor.
See you
See you
next
guys
week.
next. Yeah. Bye.